before your eyes, a phenomenon far more horrifying than Nazism has unfolded, the one that has already harmed more people than both world wars combined. Representatives of anti-cult organizations and global anti-cultism are guilty of numerous crimes against humanity. Having revived the legacy of Nazism, they engaged in organized terrorist activities for an unacceptably long time, initiated wars, committed acts of genocide, and planned a large-scale genocide that could engulf billions of people. Using deceitful and cynical methods, they have waged a hidden, undeclared war against the entire humankind. But now the time has come for the activities of the anti-cultists to be scrutinized, exposed, and brought to public trial. And this will not just be a judicial process. It will be a historical moment when justice will triumph over evil. It's a moment when the world will hold accountable those who violate the most fundamental human rights. It's a moment when all of us must rise and say, never again.
Chapter 7: Trial.
Now, it is time to draw a line under all the atrocities of the criminal transnational network of anti-cult terrorists and their backstage leaders. Humanity now stands on the brink of catastrophe. We are faced with a socially dangerous phenomenon that has given rise to unprecedented forms of international terrorism of an informational and psychological nature, global anti-cultism. This phenomenon undermines the foundations of our society, threatening the fundamental principles of democracy. Anti-cultism is, in essence, a new form of Nazism. Representatives of global anti-cultism have been behind numerous wars, terrorist attacks, and an attempt to bring the world to a new genocide. They have betrayed their people and their homeland. They have sold out and betrayed even their own children and their future. Billions of people have already suffered at their hands. If we wait any longer, if they are not stopped, eventually everyone will suffer. They have already changed the world, infiltrated your minds, and sought to use your own hands to destroy this world. Therefore, the main task now for all people is to prevent this and do everything to eradicate anti-cultism and its destructive methods from our society, and to defeat this evil once and for all. Only then will justice, goodness, and truth prevail, and only then will you be able to reclaim your freedom and peace. To make this possible, evil must first be exposed and brought to justice.
Within the framework of global anti-cultism, numerous crimes, including particularly serious ones, are committed. According to the 8th review of the United Nations Global Counterterrorism Strategy, adopted by the UN General Assembly on June 22, 2023, the activities of members of anti-cult organizations and their accomplices fall under acts, methods, and practices of terrorism. These are not just crimes. These are acts of terror directed against all of humanity. In accordance with the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, adopted by UN General Assembly Resolution 260, 3rd, on December 9, 1948, and ratified by 153 countries, the activities of members of anti-cult organizations and their accomplices are classified as genocide. According to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, adopted on July 17, 1998, and participated in by 124 countries, the activities of members of anti-cult organizations and their accomplices are classified as genocide and crimes against humanity. Thus, considering the scale and degree of social danger posed by these crimes, all representatives of anti-cultism and everyone who directly or indirectly, through their actions or criminal inaction, aided them in committing these crimes, must be held accountable for carrying out a series of terrorist acts, committing genocide and crimes against humanity and all of humankind. For all these grave crimes, there is no statute of limitations.
Over the course of 30 years of criminal activity by anti-cultism, billions of innocent people have suffered, causing significant harm to their physical and mental health. And these aren't just numbers, these are lives that have been maimed or destroyed. The phenomenon of anti-cultism is unprecedented in its inhumanity. Today, law enforcement, judicial, and international legal bodies, as well as the media, have been infected by anti-cultism. Therefore, an entirely new approach is needed to eradicate this phenomenon and compensate for the damage it has caused. History remembers how in 1945, an unprecedented judicial body was established, the International Military Tribunal, which, as part of the Nuremberg trial process, convicted the crimes of the Nazis. Similarly, today, by the legitimate demand of the people themselves, a special international criminal tribunal must be established to investigate and prosecute all those involved in anti-cultism and its crimes against humanity.
Global anti-cultism, as a new form of Nazism, is an unprecedented phenomenon and requires the establishment of a separate international criminal tribunal for its examination. In fact, just like nowadays, during the Nazi era, society did not fully grasp the scale of the crimes, and only judicial processes were able to reveal them. Similarly, it is now necessary to create a new tribunal that will address the crimes of anti-cultism and informational terrorism. Such a tribunal will uncover the truth about this phenomenon and show society the real number of victims. An investigation is currently underway intending to identify all individuals involved in the crimes of anti-cultism. Inevitably, the ideological inspirers, organizers, and key figures of global anti-cultism will be sentenced. Additionally, accomplices in anti-cultism crimes among representatives of government services, security forces, law enforcement, and judicial bodies will be held accountable. All those who exerted unlawful force on innocent people. Those who, using their official positions, participated in falsifying evidence of guilt, fabricating criminal cases, and committing unlawful acts of violence, as well as those who acted under the necessity to follow orders from higher authorities, fully aware that such actions were illegal. All of these individuals knowingly violated the law and the oath they took to serve their people, thereby carrying out actions against democracy itself. The International Criminal Tribunal will hold all individuals, regardless of their status, social standing, or importance of their positions in governments, accountable for complicity in terrorist activities, actions on the enemy's side aimed at undermining the constitutional order and the foundations of democracy, and aiding crimes against humanity directly or indirectly. The court will be precise, just, and uncompromising. The decisions of the International Criminal Tribunal cannot be appealed, reviewed, or overturned by any other judicial body. Initially, criminal cases can be initiated in individual countries affected by the anti-cultist informational terrorist acts. In accordance with the existing legislation, individuals suspected of committing acts that threaten state security, including treason and terrorism, shall be held accountable under the law and may be subject to trial in a manner that ensures respect for the principles of justice. Subsequently, it is proposed that all cases be consolidated within a single international judicial process. The tribunal will consider charges against representatives of global anti-cultism for terrorism, genocide, and crimes against humanity. The case should be conducted with maximum public disclosure so the public can stay informed of the proceedings. The process must be as transparent as possible and under the observation and control of society. In addition to determining the punishment for all those involved in global anti-cultism and its criminal activities, the Special International Criminal Tribunal will also establish a mechanism for compensating all individuals who have directly or indirectly suffered from anti-cultism over the past 30 years. Compensations will include financial, medical, and psychological assistance. It will be funded by the countries and organizations that supported and financed anti-cult organizations. Every person who has suffered from terrorist acts conducted by anti-cult groups, anyone who has incurred material, financial, psychological damage, or health impairment directly or indirectly through informational terrorist acts, will have the right to claim monetary compensation from the countries that aided the terrorists. Additionally, compensation will be provided to the relatives of those who died as a result of actions by anti-cult organizations and their accomplices, as well as to the relatives of those who were driven to suicide by such actions. As a result of the investigation, a list of such countries will be compiled, and according to the court's decision, these countries will be obligated to pay reparations to all those affected by anti-cult activities. Special consideration will be given to countries that openly supported anti-cultism, funded it, and allowed anti-cult representatives to turn their countries into testing grounds for their Nazi methods. These countries will be required by the International Tribunal to pay reparations, not only to citizens of other countries affected by anti-cultism, but also to their own citizens.